Here's an experience that will change your life. It's short, it's simple, but it's very powerful. And if you can remember this experience and use it to navigate the future experiences in your life, you will become much more empathetic, understanding, and forgiving, not only towards others, but also towards yourself. I want you to think of someone that you know who is a good person, maybe even a saint. And I want you to imagine that this good person does something bad. Now, it doesn't have to be something really terrible. It can be something relatively benign, like being rude to a waiter, or cutting in line, or talking on their phone during a movie. Imagine that this good person that you know does one of these bad things. Now I want you to expand this circle. Let's say that the good person you were imagining is actually a close friend of yours. Now imagine that this friend does something bad to you. Maybe they are late to meet you for dinner, or they cancel plans at the last minute, or maybe they do unrespond to your texts. Now let's make it worse. Let's say that this person that did something bad is a stranger. You're re-walking down the street, and the stranger pushes you, or they bump into you and spill coffee on you without apologizing. So how do you feel about these people? How do you think of them? Are they jerks? Are they careless? Are they just bad people? Are you angry at them? Do you resent them? Do you wish that they would apologize? Or perhaps you were feeling victimized by these people because clearly they did something bad, and there was no reason for them to do it. Now let's take this a step further. What if these events that this person did, whether intentionally or unintentionally, were part of a pattern? What if over time you see that they are rude to other waiters? They are always late to meet friends. They never apologize when they bump into people. In this situation, what do you think of this person? Would you still consider them a good person? Now let's go back in time too, before any of these incidents happened. What if I told you that this person who did all these things was actually a really good person who would never intentionally hurt anyone? Would you still think of them the same way? Would you still judge them? Now the reality is that we would probably still judge this person, because we tend to judge people based on their behavior. We tend to think that people are responsible for their actions. But the truth is that people aren't always responsible for their actions, because sometimes our behavior isn't actually under our control. There's a famous experiment that was conducted by Philip Zimbardo, a psychologist. In 1971, he created a fake prison in the basement of Stanford University and recruited 24 male college students to participate in his experiment. The participants were randomly assigned roles as either prisoners or guards, and the experiment was supposed to last for 2 weeks. Within just 6 days, the guards began to abuse their power. They started by making the prisoners perform humiliating acts like picking up their beds and cleaning toilets with toothbrushes. Then the guards began to use psychological manipulation, such as forcing prisoners to stand in corners while they shouted at them. Some prisoners began to show signs of extreme stress, crying and pleading with the guards to be released. And eventually Zimbardo had to end the experiment early because the guards were getting out of control. So why did this happen? Why did these college students, who were presumably good people, start to behave so badly? Well, the answer is that they became the type of people that their situation demanded them to be. Because when Zimbardo created this fake prison, he put these men in a situation where they had absolute power over other people. And so they became the type of people that this situation demanded them to be. They became abusive and controlling and manipulative. In the same way, we can find ourselves becoming the type of people that certain situations demand us to be. For example, if you work in a stressful environment with unreasonable deadlines and toxic colleagues, it's easy to understand why you might become stressed, burnt out, and even lash out at people, because the situation is causing you to become the type of person that this situation demands you to be. If you grew up in a dysfunctional family with an alcoholic parent or a parent who is abusive, it's easy to understand why you might have developed certain coping mechanisms or personality traits that allow you to survive in this environment. If you've experienced trauma, it is easy to understand why you might be triggered by certain things, or why you might struggle to trust others, or why you might have difficulty feeling emotions. Because once again, you were simply becoming the type of person that your situation demanded you to be. This realization can completely change the way that we view ourselves and others. When we understand that we are simply becoming the types of people that our situations demand us to be, we become less judgmental of ourselves and others. We become more forgiving of ourselves and others. We also become more understanding of other people's behaviors. We stop viewing people as inherently good or bad. Instead, we view people as complex human beings who are simply trying to survive in this world. And we stop judging them for the roles that their situations force them to play. This idea is captured perfectly in a quote by psychoanalyst and author Karen Horney. She says, "We all play many parts in life, but the best of all is that of being ourselves." So what do you think of this idea? Do you think that we are simply becoming the types of people that our situations demand us to be? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this experience, here's another one that you can use to improve your decision making. Long story short, we often fail to learn from other people's mistakes because we do unsee the connection between their decisions and their outcomes. But if we can increase this connection, we can learn from other people's mistakes much more effectively. For example, let's say that you're thinking about starting a business. There are countless stories of people who started businesses and failed, yet we still find ourselves thinking about starting a business. One way to increase the connection between decisions and outcomes is to think of each person as a character in a movie. In this scenario, you're the main character in your own movie. And every time you hear a story of someone else making a decision and then facing an outcome, you can picture this person as a supporting character in your movie. You can picture their decisions and outcomes as scenes that are playing out in their part of the movie. And as you watch this movie, you can start to notice patterns in the decisions that the supporting characters make. And as these patterns become clearer, you can start to see which paths lead to desirable outcomes and which paths lead to undesirable outcomes. And then you can make decisions in your own movie based on the decisions that you see in the movies of other people. By thinking of people as characters in a movie, we can remove the emotional component of other people's stories, and we can focus more on the lessons that we can take away from their experiences. This exercise can be applied to many different areas of our lives. We can use it to learn from people who have made successful career moves, healthy relationship decisions, sound financial choices. Essentially, we can use it to learn from pretty much anything that other people have experienced. Learning from other people's experiences is one of the most effective ways to improve our own decision-making. But the problem is that we do often connect the dots between other people's decisions and their outcomes. And as a result, we miss out on valuable lessons. But if we can start viewing other people's lives as a series of movies, and we can start viewing ourselves as the main character in our own movie, we can start to see the connections between decisions and outcomes much more clearly, and we can start learning from other people's mistakes.